a bit of teething problem there, breathing problem, so getting there. Right, I mean, a bit of a technical problem here, which needs to be addressed, I think. Problem. So, a bit of a technical problem. Oops. See if I can sort this thing out. Yes, so having a little deep stay watch is to update people on information and the latest information. So today in London there has been this rebellion event whereby 6 bridges have been blocked in to protest against the inaction of government, the alleged inaction of government with regard to climate change. So that's yeah. So I think Southwark Bridge and Waterloo Bridge, Westminster Bridge, and let me think. Lambeth Bridge and a couple of other bridges they've been blocked for a few hours by people protesting against climate change, and I think there have been 40 plus arrests. So that's happened today in London. Then there's quite some interesting information with regard to the Julian Assange situation and what's happening in let's try to sort out this thing a bit better. What's happening with Julian Assange and the situation in Ecuador. It would appear, when you take in all the different pieces and bits of information, it would appear that basically, actually, Julian Assange is far from being the only person being victimized by the current Ecuadorian government. And even though, the current Ecuadorian president, Lenin Moreno, belongs to the same party, same political party as the previous president. Rafael Correa was a friend of Julian Assange, and Julian Assange interviewed Correa at some point for Russia Today, and it's about member of the same party, a populist party. So it would appear that in reality, after being elected, Lenin Moreno is started some kind of soft coup. Whereby is causing up to the neocons in Washington, and it's causing up to big business. It's causing up to neoliberal banking sectors, and with total abandonment. So and then when it has been going on for quite some time, and then when people in his own party, or even people in his own government, they've been like, or say the former president, associate Rafael Correa, they've been actually harshly criticizing his selling out policies. Basically, what is appear to have been happening is that Lenin Moreno, with the help of the totally corrupt judiciary in Ecuador, has been setting up these critics with trumped up charges of corruption and so basically it would appear that Julian Assange is not the only victim of President Moreno. Probably but the first victim of President Moreno in Ecuador is probably the people of Ecuador. To the point that the former president, Rafael Correa was the president, whilst the current president was his vice president. So there were a close association there, apart from the fact that they still are members of the same allegedly populist party. But even turned former associate Rafael Correa. So Rafael Correa also was became the victim of this judicial campaign, judicial persecution, talking about judicial persecution, and to the point that Rafael Correa had to flee Ecuador, the former president, and to take refuge in Belgium. But it doesn't end there, because it would appear that even when Lenin Moreno ran for president, ran on a ticket, and his vice president was a guy called Jorge Glas, and when due to his Lenin Moreno policies of completely selling out, completely betraying the Ecuadorian people, and introducing austerity, reversing some of the previous, the policy of the previous administration of Rafael Correa, which were aimed at addressing poverty, reducing poverty. It would appear that it even set up his vice president. When he started to criticize his political direction, even used the judiciary to set up his vice president Jorge Glas with trumped up charges of corruption. So basically, it would appear that now his former vice president in Ecuador, Lenin Moreno, has been sentenced to 6 years in prison for trumped up charge of corruption, just because he was objecting to the new line of the Ecuadorian government, which, amongst other things, was rewarded by Goldman Sachs with a $500 million loan. It was also rewarded by some bank of Latin American bank with another $500 million loan. So they get rewarded with $1 billion loan for completely selling out the Ecuadorian people. But it would appear also that this Lenin Moreno, former vice president, which now is in jail, is now on hunger strike, close to that point. Basically, his former vice president, Lenin Moreno, former vice president, Jorge Glas, is now on the 28th day of a hunger strike. So he's refusing any food for up to 28 days, and now he's been refusing water for 7 days. It would appear that he was in hospital for a few days, and then Lenin Moreno sent him back to jail. And basically, it would appear that his former vice president, which is now in jail, is very close to that point, basically, because he's been refusing food for 28 days, and now in the last 7 days, he also been refusing water. So that does give some idea of Julian Assange is not the only victims of Lenin Moreno policies. We can say, like, Lenin Moreno was elected as a president, fair and square, but it was seemed that now he's presiding with the support of the Ecuadorian army, with support of the Ecuadorian oligarchs and the Ecuadorian big business, Ecuadorian banks, controlling basically all Ecuadorian media. It's been that he's presiding over a soft coup, causing up to Washington, causing up to the New York in Washington, causing up to causing up to big business in Ecuador, all the oligarchs in Ecuador. So it seems that he's basically, even though he has been democratic elected, is presiding over a soft coup, with the help of the judiciary, the military, the big business, the media. It's interesting that the plight of the Ecuador former vice president, Jorge Glas, has been, this guy, he was the former vice president of Ecuador, and is close to death because he's been refusing food for 28 days, refusing water for 7-8 days, and there is not hardly a single mention in Ecuadorian media about this situation. So it would seem that Julian Assange is far from being the only, the only victim of the soft coup of Ecuador President Lenin Moreno. His own former vice president is close to death because of being on hunger strike, and the people, the big campaign of privatization going on, and the people of Ecuador basically is being pushed more and more into abject poverty. And now, I'm afraid that's all I have time for, for today. It's just to provide some background of what is happening with the situation in Ecuador, showing that Julian Assange is far from being the only victim of Lenin Moreno. Well, his former vice president is close to that point for being in hunger strike for 28 days, refusing water for 7 days. So, and the people in Ecuador is being pushed increasingly into abject poverty. So that's all I have time for today. I hope people may find this information interesting to give some background of what is happening with Julian Assange, what's happening with the government of Ecuador, and also what is happening in Latin America, because this kind of counter-revolution that are going on basically all over Latin America, we see in Brazil, and the reverse in some of the social progress that was made in the previous years. So we have quite the installation of quite a number of barbaric regimes in Latin America, and which may eventually lead to some military aggression against Nicaragua and Venezuela and Cuba, or maybe some other form of economic aggression. Anyway, that's all I have time for today, and I hope people may find the information I try to provide interesting. So that's time for today. A new deep stay watch soon, and I hope everyone is doing well.